This story is titled, I Caught My Wife in Bed with Best Friend After Their Betrayal. Even my children sided with them until he kicked them out. Now they're begging to return. Hey Reddit, I'm using a throwaway account for obvious reasons. I never thought I'd be one of those guys posting their life story online. But man, the things that have gone down in my life recently, I need to get this off my chest. Maybe my story can help some other guys avoid the same mistakes I made, trusting the wrong people. I'm 41 years old, and up until a few months ago, I thought I had everything figured out. Funny how life can pull the rug right out from under you. Let me start from the beginning, so you can understand how badly I got screwed over, what I built, and what they destroyed. I've been a construction guy since I was 19. I'm not one of those desk jockey types who've never swung a hammer. I started at the bottom, working my ass off as a basic laborer. Summer days in 105 degrees heat, winter mornings when it's so cold your fingers go numb even with gloves on. But I loved every minute of it. There's something about looking at a finished building and knowing your sweat and blood went into making it real. I worked my way up the old-fashioned way, learning every aspect of the trade and taking night classes in construction management while working full days on site. Now, I'm a senior project manager running developments worth millions across 4 states. I built my first company house when I was 26, sold it for a nice profit, and kept climbing from there. My current crew would walk through fire for me because they know I've done every job they're doing, and I still jump in when things need to get done. I met my wife, Lisa, 42, back when I was 20. She was working at this coffee shop where all us construction guys would grab breakfast before heading to the site. Man, she was something else back then. Long blonde hair and this smile that could light up the whole place. She didn't mind that I'd come in with my work boots still dirty from the day before. It took me 3 weeks to work up the courage to ask her out. My buddies were placing bets on whether I'd chicken out. Shows how long I've had taste in friends, but that's a story for later. We dated for 2 years and got married in a small ceremony. Nothing fancy, but it was perfect for us. Lisa said she didn't need an expensive wedding. She just wanted to start our life together. Man, what a load of BS that turned out to be looking back. Our daughter Olivia came along right after, and those early years were tough, but good. I was working 12-hour shifts, sometimes 6 days a week, coming home dead tired but proud because I was providing for my family. I started my own side business doing residential renovations on weekends. Lisa used to pack me lunches and bring Olivia to the site sometimes so I could see them during long work days. I remember Olivia at 4 years old wearing this tiny plastic hard hat I got her, helping me measure lumber. Those memories kill me now considering how things turned out. When our son Thomas came along 8 years later, I'd already moved up to site supervisor. I finally had enough saved up to buy Lisa that bigger house she'd been wanting. Not going to lie, I was proud as hell when I could give her that. 4 bedrooms, big yard, even a 3-car garage where I keep my tools and my weekend project, a 72 Charger I've been restoring. Let me paint you a picture of what I built over 18 years of marriage. Custom house in a good neighborhood? Check. Kids in good schools? Check. Vacations every summer? Check. Sure, maybe I wasn't the most sophisticated guy. I still track dirt in the house sometimes. My hands are permanently calloused, and yeah, I drink beer instead of wine, but I gave them a damn good life. Thomas is 14 now, and Olivia's 20. I put both kids in private school because Lisa insisted they needed the best education possible. I paid for Olivia's fancy art classes and Thomas's travel baseball team. I never said no when they needed something. Olivia's in college now. Guess who's paying that $40,000 a year tuition? This unsophisticated construction worker. I'm not trying to sound bitter here. Okay, maybe I am a little, but I need you to understand what I sacrificed to give them the good life. Those early years I'd work in 100 degrees heat all day, then head to night classes running on energy drinks and determination. I missed my sister's wedding because we had a critical project deadline. I worked through pneumonia once because the crew needed me. Every callus on my hands, every scar, every aching joint. It was all worth it because I was building something for my family. I even managed to put away a decent nest egg, close to $800,000 in various investments. Lisa never had to worry about money and could buy whatever she wanted. Hell, she even had her own fun money account I'd put $2,000 into every month. Yeah, you read that right. $2,000 a month just for her to spend however she wanted, no questions asked. Guess that wasn't sophisticated enough for her either. Looking back now, I can see I was so focused on providing everything they wanted that I missed the warning signs. I was too busy building dreams to notice they were turning into nightmares. But that's the thing about being a builder. You get so caught up in creating something strong and stable, sometimes you forget to check the foundation for cracks. The change in Lisa didn't happen overnight. Looking back now, it's like watching a time-lapse of wood rot. Start small, barely noticeable, then suddenly your whole foundation is compromised. It started about 2 years ago, right after I landed the biggest project of my career, a $60 million commercial development that would set our family up for life. You'd think she'd be proud, right? Her husband making executive-level money doing honest work? Nah. Instead, she starts making these little comments about how I'm always covered in dust or how I don't fit in with her new social circle. See, Lisa had started working at this fancy boutique downtown, selling overpriced clothes to bored rich housewives. She didn't need the money. Hell, her entire yearly salary was less than my quarterly bonus. But she said she needed stimulation and to find herself. The first big red flag was the gym membership, not your regular YMCA type deal. Nope, had to be this exclusive fitness studio that cost more per month than my first car payment. She started going 5 days a week and always came home showered and made up. When I think about it now, I'm pretty sure she wasn't working out that whole time, if you know what I mean. Then came the phone thing. Lisa used to leave her phone anywhere, never cared if I picked it up. Suddenly she's got this death grip on it. Password changed, always texting with this little smirk on her face. If I walked into the room, she'd flip it over faster than a pancake. Said she was just chatting with her boutique friends. Yeah, right, Olivia, our daughter. She started picking up her mom's new attitude. She used to be my little girl, always wanted to help me in the garage, knew every tool by name. Now suddenly, she's embarrassed that her dad's a blue-collar worker. She started making these snide comments about how her friends' dads all have respectable office jobs, like building things that actually matter isn't respectable enough for her anymore. Lisa stopped cooking about a year ago. She said she was too exhausted from work and started ordering these fancy meal prep services instead. $300 a week for what looked like bird food to me. I offered to grill or make my mom's lasagna recipe, which they used to love, but apparently that wasn't sophisticated enough anymore. One night I came home from a 14-hour day supervising a critical concrete pour and found them eating sushi in front of the TV. They didn't even save me a plate. When I made myself a sandwich, Lisa actually complained about the smell of my work clothes. 20 years of those same work clothes putting food on the table, and suddenly, they're a problem. The real kicker was when Lisa started redecorating the house. Everything I built with my own hands, the custom kitchen cabinets, the hand-carved mantle, the built-in bookshelves, she wanted to replace with some modern minimalist crap. She spent $155,000 on a designer couch that looks like something you'd find in a dentist's office. The couch I later caught them on, but that's for the next chapter. My garage was my last sanctuary. Every weekend, I'd be out there working on the charger, teaching Thomas about engines and bodywork. Lisa used to kiss me even when I was covered in grease. Now she started parking her new Lexus that I paid for on the street because the garage was too dirty. She complained about the noise when I was working out there, said the neighbors probably thought we were low class because of my project car. Even our sex life went to shit. It used to be passionate, spontaneous. She never cared about getting a little dirty with me before. Last year, nothing. She always had a headache, was too tired, needed to be up early for yoga. I should have known she was saving her energy for someone else. The worst part? I made excuses for all of it. I told myself she was going through a phase, maybe a midlife crisis. I worked even harder, thinking if I could just provide more, be more successful in her eyes, she'd go back to being the woman I married. I bought her jewelry, planned surprise weekends away, which she usually canceled last minute because of work commitments. Thomas saw it, though. My boy has good instincts. He started spending more time in the garage with me, less time around his mom and sister. One day he looks at me and says, "Dad, why are you trying so hard? They don't even appreciate it." Wise words from a 14-year-old, but I was too blind to listen. I kept thinking about the Lisa I married, the woman who used to pack my lunch every day, who'd run her fingers through my hair even when it was full of sawdust, who used to brag to her friends about how her husband built things with his own hands. The woman who used to say she was proud of my calluses because they were proof of how hard I worked for our family. That woman? She was long gone, replaced by someone I didn't even recognize anymore. I should have seen it coming when she started hanging out with her new, sophisticated friends every weekend. It was wine tastings, art galleries, stupid meditation retreats. Meanwhile, I'm working overtime, managing crews, dealing with suppliers, making sure our family's future was secure. But apparently that wasn't enough anymore. She needed someone who could talk about French wines and modern art, not someone who could build a house from the ground up. This is where everything really went to shit. I have this buddy Nathan. Nathan and I went way back to trade school. While I stuck with construction, he went into real estate. He always talked about how he was elevating himself above the trades. I should have seen the red flags when he showed up at my door 3 months ago, driving a leased BMW, found that out later, and wearing a watch that cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. He said he lost his real estate license in his home state due to some misunderstanding with the board and needed a place to crash while he rebuilt his business here. Looking back, I'm pretty sure he got caught running some kind of scam, but I was too trusting to dig deeper. That's what real friends do, right? Help each other out when they're down. Let me paint you a picture of this guy. He's about my height but half the muscle, one of those gym bros who only works on his glamour muscles. He always wore these tailored suits that probably cost more than my crew makes in a month. He had this way of talking that made everything sound like a humble brag. Oh, this old thing? Just a little Rolex I picked up. But man, your calluses really show what real work looks like. Fake as a $3 bill, but man, my wife and daughter ate that shit up. The first night he stayed with us, he brought over some fancy wine and started talking about his investment strategies. Lisa was hanging on every word like he was Warren Buffett himself. Olivia, too. Both of them giggling at his stupid jokes, asking him about his worldly adventures. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there thinking about the 3 construction projects I'm juggling that are actually putting food on the table. Nathan stayed in our guest room for 2 weeks. 2 weeks that changed everything. Every morning he'd come down in his designer sleepwear. Who the hell buys $200 pajamas? Making espresso in this fancy machine he brought with him. He started teaching Lisa about proper coffee appreciation, like the coffee shop brew we used to love wasn't good enough anymore. During those 2 weeks, I watched this snake charm my family right under my nose. He'd take Lisa and Olivia shopping, saying they needed to upgrade their style. He started talking to Lisa about investment opportunities, even though I handled our finances just fine. He always had some reason why they needed to meet for lunch or coffee to discuss business opportunities. The way he wormed his way into my family's good graces was something out of a manipulation handbook. He'd praise Lisa's natural sophistication and tell her she was wasted in that boutique. He told Olivia she had model potential and that she should think about upgrading her social circle. Real subtle, right? But here's the thing that really gets me. While he was playing Mr. Sophisticated with my wife and daughter, he was trying to maintain the old buddy act with me. He would come out to the garage, beer in hand, talking about the old days. He even tried to give me advice on my charger restoration, like he'd ever turned a wrench in his life. One Saturday, I'm under the charger replacing the transmission, which I rebuilt myself, by the way. Nathan comes out, designer shoes probably getting dirty for the first time ever, and starts telling me how I should think bigger. He says I'm wasting my potential in construction, that with my experience I could be so much more, like building things that last isn't worth doing if you can't do it in a suit. I found out later he was telling Lisa the same thing, that I was stuck in my ways and that I lacked ambition. Rich coming from a guy who was basically couch surfing at 40. But Lisa, she started looking at me different after that. She started making comments about how I could do better if I just applied myself differently. The real kick in the teeth? He started showing up at my job sites, all suited up, talking to my crews about investment opportunities. I found out he was trying to get them to invest in some real estate scheme of his. I had to shut that down fast. These are good guys with families to support, not pawns in his games. Thomas was the only one who saw through him from day one. My boys got better instincts than I ever had. One night after Nathan had taken Lisa and Olivia to some wine tasting event, while I was working late finishing a project, Thomas says to me, "Dad, that guy's fake like those knockoff watches they sell on the street." I wish I'd listened to him sooner. Even my dog didn't trust him. Kaiser, my German Shepherd, usually loves everyone, but around Nathan? Wouldn't stop growling. I should have trusted my dog's judgment. They say animals can smell bad character. Kaiser knew he was a snake before any of us figured it out. After those 2 weeks, Nathan found a place of his own, or so he said. Turned out later, it was a short-term rental way above his means. But by then, he had his hooks in deep. He started showing up at our house when I was at work, always with some excuse about needing to talk to Lisa about business opportunities or wanting to mentor Olivia about her future. I know what you're thinking. How could I be so blind? Trust me, I ask myself that every day. But when you've known someone for 20 years, when they've stood next to you at your wedding, when they've seen your kids grow up, you don't want to believe they could betray you like that. I'd been noticing weird things around the house for weeks. Tools moved in my garage when I hadn't touched them. The pool temperature being warmer than I'd left it. Small things that wouldn't mean much to most people. But when you've spent your life paying attention to details on construction sites, you notice when things are off. So I did what any guy with access to security equipment would do. I installed cameras. Not the cheap stuff from big box stores, but professional-grade equipment I got through my construction contacts. Cameras that could catch every angle of the house, inside and out. Hidden ones too, because something in my gut told me I needed to be smart about this. The setup was perfect. Everything fed directly to my phone with motion alerts and cloud backup. Cost me a pretty penny, but as they say in construction, measure twice, cut once. I also installed a GPS tracker on Lisa's car. Yeah, I know how it sounds, but when you're responsible for millions in construction equipment, you learn a thing or two about tracking assets. Here's where it gets good. Last Thursday, I'm at the site doing final inspections on a major commercial project we'd been busting ass for weeks to finish ahead of schedule, and we were finally in the home stretch. My phone buzzes. Motion alert from the pool camera. It's 2:30 p.m., middle of a weekday. Nobody should be home. I check the feed, and there's Nathan's BMW pulling into my driveway, the one I paved myself last summer. Lisa's car is already there. She was supposed to be at work. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone, but I kept watching. They're heading to the pool area, all smiles and touching. Nathan is carrying a bottle of something, probably one of his fancy wines he loves showing off. Here's the kicker. They're using the pool key that I had lost 3 weeks ago, the one Lisa said she'd help me look for. I tell my foreman I've got a family emergency, jump in my truck, and the whole 20-minute drive home I'm watching them on my phone at red lights. They're getting cozy in my pool, the one I designed and built with my own 2 hands last summer. 60 grand in custom stonework and heating systems, and this snake is using it to hit on my wife. But I'm not stupid. In construction, you learn to document everything. So I'm recording all of this, saving every bit of footage. Years of dealing with contract disputes taught me the value of solid evidence. I pull up to my house quiet as possible, park around the corner where they can't see my truck, and enter through the garage using the silent mode I'd installed on the door, another unnecessary upgrade Lisa had complained about. I can hear them laughing and splashing through the patio doors. My hands are shaking, but not from fear, pure rage. But here's where 20 years of managing construction sites pays off. I've learned to keep my cool in crisis situations. When you're responsible for million-dollar projects and dozens of workers' safety, you learn to think before you act. So instead of rushing out there, I take a minute. I set up my phone to record and make sure I've got multiple angles covered. Then I walk out to my back patio, calm as if I'm doing a routine site inspection. And there they are, Nathan and Lisa all over each other in my pool. They don't even notice me at first, too busy playing tonsil hockey like teenagers at a pool party. Nathan sees me first. Man, I wish I had a picture of his face. All that fake sophistication gone in an instant. He literally pushes Lisa away, scrambling to get out of the pool like it's full of sharks. "Brother, this isn't... I can explain." "Yeah, sure you can, buddy." Lisa, she goes straight to attack mode. She starts screaming about how I'm never home, how Nathan understands her needs, how I'm emotionally unavailable. Rich coming from someone who's currently very physically available in my pool with my supposed best friend. The best part? Remember those cameras I installed? They caught everything, including the 5 other times they'd used my pool while I was at work. The times they'd snuck into my garage for their little rendezvous. All of it in crystal clear 4K with audio. Nathan tries to grab his stuff and run, but I'm blocking the gate. He's standing there in his fancy swim trunks, probably realizing that his designer watch isn't waterproof after all. "Move!" he says, trying to sound tough. 20 years of construction work versus his Pilates classes? Yeah, good luck with that, buddy. I just smile and hold up my phone, showing them the live feed from all the cameras. Got enough footage here to make a movie, I tell them. Wonder what your real estate clients would think, or the licensing board in your new state. Lisa's face goes white. She starts babbling about how it's not what it looks like and how we can work this out, like I'm some contractor she can negotiate with over change orders. Nathan, the coward, actually tries to play the old friendship card. Think about our history, man. Don't do anything crazy. I laugh, actually laugh out loud. History? Like the history of these videos? Or the history of you trying to scam my workers with your investment schemes? Or maybe the history of you hitting on my daughter when you thought nobody was watching? Yeah, I had footage of that too. I caught him getting too friendly with Olivia during one of their mentoring sessions. I saved that little bit of evidence for later. Always good to have backup plans in construction. I tell them both to get the hell out of my house. Nathan starts grabbing his stuff, but I stop him. The Rolex stays, I say. Consider it your first payment for pool usage fees. He actually takes it off and puts it on the table. Guess he didn't want me sharing those videos after all. The aftermath of catching them was like watching a foundation crack during an earthquake. Everything you thought was solid just splits apart. The next few days in that house felt like walking through a war zone, with battle lines drawn that I never thought I'd see in my own family. The first person I told was Thomas. He deserved to hear it from me, not through gossip or social media. I found him in the garage that evening, actually working on the Charger's carburetor like I'd taught him. The kid took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. I sat him down on my workbench, the same one I'd built when he was just learning to walk, and told him everything. You know what my son did? He hugged me. 14 years old, at that age where most kids are too cool to show emotion, and he just wrapped his arms around me and held on tight. When he pulled back, he had this look in his eyes I'll never forget. Part anger, part determination. They're dead to me, he said, with a maturity that broke my heart and made me proud at the same time. Olivia was a different story entirely. She came home from her college classes to find me changing the locks. First thing you learn in construction, secure the site. She asked what was going on, so I showed her the footage. All of it. The pool, the garage, everything. You know what she said? Dad, you're overreacting. They're in love. These things happen. In love? These things happen? My own daughter defending the man who helped destroy her family. She actually had the nerve to say that Nathan was more emotionally available than me, that he understood her generation better, that maybe if I hadn't been so focused on manual labor and tried to elevate myself, Mom wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere. The next few days were a blur of lawyers, phone calls, and watching my family choose sides. Lisa moved into a hotel, crying about how I was being unreasonable and how we could work through this. Olivia went with her, of course. She said she couldn't stand to be around my negative energy. She told me I was toxic for not being willing to forgive and move forward. But here's where it gets even better. Olivia started defending Nathan to everyone who would listen. She said he was helping her network and showing her a better way of life. She started posting on social media about how love doesn't follow conventional rules and how true connections transcend traditional relationships. The mental gymnastics this girl was doing could have won Olympic gold. My crew at work, they had my back 100%. Word got around about Nathan trying to scam them with his investment schemes, and let's just say he's not welcome on any construction site in the tri-state area anymore. My foreman Greg actually offered to have some guys talk to Nathan. I had to turn that down. When you've poured as much concrete as I have, you know there are some things better left unspoken. The most painful part was watching Olivia turn into a mini version of what Lisa had become. She started dressing different, talking different, acting like the last 20 years of family life were somehow beneath her. One day, she came to pick up some clothes, walked into the garage where Thomas and I were working on the Charger, and actually wrinkled her nose. God, how can you stand the smell of grease? She said. This is why Mom left, you know. You never wanted to improve yourself. Thomas didn't even look up from the engine. No, Olivia, he said, hands steady as he adjusted a valve. Mom left because she's shallow, and you're turning out just like her. My boy speaking truth that cut like a welding torch. The house felt different after they left. Emptier, but somehow less suffocating. Thomas and I fell into a routine. I started teaching him more about construction, brought him to some job sites. He's got a natural talent for it, can read blueprints better than some of my experienced guys. Every night we'd work on the charger together, talking about everything and nothing. Real conversations, not the fake social chatter Lisa and Olivia had become so fond of. One night, about a week after everything blew up, I found Thomas sitting in the garage looking at old family photos. There was one of all of us at the beach years ago. Lisa and Olivia building a sand castle while Thomas helped me set up the umbrella. He looked at me and asked, "Dad, were they always like this and we just didn't see it? Or did they change?" Hardest question I've ever had to answer. I told him the truth. Sometimes people show you who they really are when they think they've found something better. Like when you strip old paint off a wall and find the rot underneath. The neighbors took sides too. The Wilsons next door, who I'd helped with their basement flooding last year, were suddenly too busy to say hello. But Chris down the street, whose roof I fixed after that big storm, brings over beer every Friday now. He says his door's always open if we need anything. Let me tell you what happened when Lisa and Olivia moved in with Nathan, thinking they were upgrading their lives. Let me paint you a picture of their grand new life. Nathan had rented this luxury apartment in the fancy part of town, one of those places with a doorman and a rooftop pool. I found out later he was paying $4,500 a month in rent, way above his means, but my soon-to-be ex-wife and daughter thought they'd hit the jackpot. Lisa actually texted me pictures of the place, like she was trying to prove how much better off she was. "See what we were missing," she wrote. "This is what sophistication looks like." Yeah, sophistication on borrowed money and lies, as they'd soon find out. The first few weeks they were all over social media, Lisa posting pictures of their wine-tasting evenings and cultural discussions. Olivia sharing shots of herself by the rooftop pool, talking about her elevated lifestyle and how she was finally among people who appreciate the finer things. The comment section was full of their new sophisticated friends congratulating them on their brave choice to pursue authentic happiness. Through my construction contacts, we know everyone in this town, including high-end real estate agents. I kept tabs on what was really going on. Nathan's real estate license application was stuck in review. Turns out, his misunderstanding in his home state was actually a fraud investigation. He wasn't closing any deals, just burning through whatever cash he had left, trying to maintain his fancy image. But Lisa and Olivia? They were too busy playing house in their new sophisticated world to notice the cracks forming. Lisa quit her job at the boutique, said it was beneath her now that she was with Nathan. She started calling herself an influencer and trying to build a social media following. She posted these long rants about finding yourself and living authentically. Real rich coming from someone who abandoned their 14-year-old son. Olivia dropped 2 classes at college, saying she needed time to focus on her personal growth. She started dressing in these designer clothes Nathan bought her, acting like she was born into money instead of being raised by a hard-working construction worker. One day she came to get more of her stuff from our house, wearing a watch that cost more than my first truck. When Thomas asked where she got it, she just smirked and said, "Nathan knows how to treat a lady right." The real estate agents I knew started filling me in on Nathan's desperate moves. He was trying to put together deals with no money down, promising returns he couldn't deliver. He started hitting up his sophisticated friends for investments in his schemes. He even tried to get Lisa to convince me to invest some of our retirement savings in his latest venture. Yeah, good luck with that, buddy. About 2 months into their new life, the cracks started showing. Their credit card got declined at some fancy restaurant. My buddy owns the place, filled me in later. Nathan played it off as a banking error, but I knew the truth. He was burning through cash faster than a poorly insulated house burns through heating oil. Lisa started calling mutual friends, asking to borrow money for temporary cash flow issues. She said it was just until Nathan's big deals came through. These are the same friends who took her side during the split, thinking she'd moved up in the world. Now they were seeing the truth, one bounced check at a time. Olivia's social media posts started getting desperate too, less about living her best life and more about seeking opportunities. She started trying to sell these sketchy diet products online, calling herself an entrepreneur. The same girl who used to mock my dirty construction money was now hawking miracle weight loss teas on Instagram. The breaking point came when Nathan's BMW got repossessed right from their fancy apartment's parking garage. Lisa called me in tears, not to apologize, but to ask for money. She said it was for Olivia's tuition, but I knew better. I told her the tuition was already paid directly to the school. One of the first things I did after the split was make sure Thomas and Olivia's education was secure.
"You don't understand," she sobbed. "We're just having a temporary setback. Nathan has these amazing deals lined up."
I cut her off right there. I told her I'd learned enough about Nathan's amazing deals to know they were as fake as his Rolex. Yeah, turns out that fancy watch he left by my pool was a knockoff. The best part? Their sophisticated friends started dropping them one by one. Turns out the upper crust isn't so friendly when you can't pick up the dinner tab anymore. All those people who praised their brave choices suddenly had other plans when Lisa tried to organize their weekly wine tastings, but they were still holding on to their fantasy. Lisa kept posting about their amazing life, even as Nathan's credit cards kept getting declined. Olivia was still playing the role of sophisticated stepdaughter, even though she had to start selling her designer clothes online to make rent. Now this is exactly how their perfect little world collapsed. It was a regular Tuesday night. I was in the garage with Thomas teaching him how to weld. The kid's a natural, by the way. My phone starts blowing up with calls from Lisa. Normally I'd ignore them. Been doing that for months now. But something about the frequency made me think something was up. 15 missed calls in 20 minutes isn't normal even for her. When I finally picked up, I could barely understand her through the sobbing. I had to tell her 3 times to slow down and breathe. Then it came out. She'd come home early from her influencer meeting, basically her sitting in Starbucks taking selfies with overpriced coffee, and found Nathan and Olivia getting hot and heavy on their designer couch. The same Nathan who'd been playing Daddy Dearest, buying her designer clothes and promising to guide her career. The same Olivia who'd looked down on me for working with my hands, who'd called me toxic and unsophisticated. There they were, tangled up on the couch that probably hadn't even been paid for yet. According to Lisa, once she could talk coherently, this hadn't been a one-time thing. She found messages going back months. All those career mentoring sessions. Yeah, they weren't discussing job opportunities. While she was out trying to build her social media brand, her boyfriend and daughter were building something else entirely. The best part? When she confronted them, neither even tried to deny it. Nathan, that snake, actually said they were in love and that Olivia understood him on a deeper level. Familiar? Same lines he used about Lisa when I caught them. Guess his sophisticated vocabulary doesn't include many original phrases. Olivia? She looked Lisa dead in the eye and said, "Well, Mom, these things happen when you pursue authentic happiness, right?" Throwing Lisa's own words back at her from when she defended their affair to me. Now that's what I call karma. Lisa was hysterical on the phone, begging me to help her. She said she finally understood how I felt that day at the pool. She asked if she could come home, if we could try again for our family's sake. She said she'd made a horrible mistake, and now she knew what really mattered. You know what I did? Laughed. Not a happy laugh. More like what you do when something's so messed up it goes past sad and circles back to funny. I told her she and Olivia had made their choices. They chose sophistication over substance, appearances over loyalty. Now they could live with those choices. But it gets better. Remember all those amazing business deals Nathan had lined up? Turns out the only thing he was investing in was his image. Lisa found out they were 3 months behind on rent for that luxury apartment. All those designer clothes and fancy dinners, maxed out credit cards and borrowed money. The next day, Olivia tried calling me. When I finally answered, she was all defensive. She said I couldn't judge her because I didn't understand sophisticated relationships. That what she had with Nathan was different and special. That he saw her as an equal, not just some kid. I told her that Nathan had probably said all the same things to her mother. I asked her how it felt to be the newer model in his pattern of trading up. She hung up on me. Truth hurts, doesn't it, Princess? Thomas's reaction when I told him, the kid didn't even look surprised. He just said, "Guess all that sophistication didn't include loyalty, huh?" Then went right back to welding. My boy got wisdom beyond his years. The aftermath was beautiful to watch. Lisa and Olivia had to move out of the luxury apartment. Turns out Nathan had been lying about paying the rent. Their sophisticated friends disappeared faster than concrete sets in summer heat. All those social media followers got quite a show when Lisa and Olivia started posting vague messages about betrayal and toxic masculinity. Nathan? He skipped town when his real estate scam started catching up with him. Last I heard, he's trying to pull the same routine in another state. He left Lisa and Olivia with a pile of debt and some worthless investment paperwork. They're living in a 2-bedroom apartment across town now, trying to fix their mom and daughter relationship. Lisa tried coming by the house again last week, crying about how sorry she was, how she'd learned her lesson. Olivia sent me this long text about how she was young and confused, and Nathan had taken advantage of her vulnerability. Thomas and me? We're doing just fine. The charger's almost finished. Turns out all those hours in the garage were good therapy. My construction company's expanding, just landed a $12 million contract. Thomas is talking about studying engineering after high school. He wants to design the buildings I build. I started seeing this woman recently. Catherine, a structural engineer I met on one of my projects. She's got dirt under her nails sometimes and knows more about load-bearing walls than wine pairings. Thomas likes her. Says she's real. Coming from him, that's high praise. Sometimes I look at old family photos and wonder how it all went so wrong. But then I remember what my old foreman used to say. Sometimes you gotta tear down something weak to build something stronger. He was talking about buildings, but man, does it apply to life too? Final thoughts. Remember, you can't build anything solid on a foundation of lies. And sometimes the best revenge is just letting karma do her thing while you focus on building something better. To answer some common questions. Yes, I still have the security footage. No, I won't share it. Yes, Thomas and I are doing great, and yes, Catherine knows the whole story and says I dodged a bullet.